Welcome to Wednesday. It's February 8th, 2023. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com. Also being brought to you by WYDOT. We have another cold front that is going to be passing through the region later today and into tonight. This is going to bring similar results to the front that came in early this week. Mountain snow. Snow showers in the plains. It's going to get windy, especially along sections of Interstate 80 and I-25 later today and tonight. And we'll see colder temperatures. It'll be pretty chilly behind this front tomorrow for really the entire region. So a little more mountain snow, some snow showers in the plains. Then fair weather, Friday through Saturday, a little bit of a break as we're in between systems. We do have a cold front coming through the region Sunday and Monday. It probably won't produce much weather. But we'll see this front Sunday and Monday kind of setting the stage for what comes later. And that is a bigger system and a colder system and a bigger threat of snow and colder air again moving into the region towards the middle of next week. We're still looking at that middle portion of next week, a larger system affecting a large part of the central and western United States. That's going to open the door to a lot of Canadian air again. And we are going to be looking at possibly another stratospheric warming event happening here over the next 10 days. This is when the stratosphere way up high over the polar regions warms up, and that makes the atmosphere push Arctic air to the southern latitudes, the lower latitudes. We'll talk about that here towards the end of the podcast. But a stratospheric warming event means cold weather in the long term. The satellite photo today is pretty busy out there in the Pacific. Here's today's weather system right here. It doesn't look like much because it isn't much, but it will be able to push a front through, bringing some mountain snow and snow showers and colder weather. But you can see out here in the Gulf of Alaska, we've got a low here over the western Aleutians. We've got another low there. So the Pacific is getting queued up to throw things at us over the next 7 to 10 days. Here's today's 500 millibar chart. You can see that low up in Montana. We've got that low over the panhandle of Texas. That panhandle of Texas low is actually going to pick up some moisture and produce some rain into the Corn Belt, some snow on the northwest side of it later on today. But for the Intermountain West, it'll be this guy right here coming on through. So it is going to produce some weather, but it quickly moves to the south and east, and by Friday, we have this little sliver of high pressure that comes in. So this low will head into the Midwest, Great Lakes being a weather producer, while we have this little break here. This low coming into Washington and Oregon will take a track further to the south, and as it does so, it'll go across the southern plains by later in the weekend. So this is through Friday afternoon. So you can see here across the western high plains, the gray, the green shows a little bit of snow. Not a lot, the heavier stuff in the mountains. Then you can see this rain shield being a little bit more impressive into the Corn Belt. The northwest part of the Corn Belt right here will be getting into some snow. The California area, the Great Basin, Arizona, all enjoying kind of a nice little break in the action weather-wise. This is what the snowfall looks like through Friday afternoon. So nothing looming terribly large, although if you're traveling Interstate 80 across Iowa into Illinois later this week and into the weekend, you'll encounter some winter weather there. This is what temperatures look like behind the front. So this is why we mean it remains chilly across the west. A lot of this still has to do with the snow cover across the region, but there's a pretty good little shot of cold air coming in behind it. So it's going to be chilly, very wintry, while the rest of the central and eastern United States enjoys temperatures that are above normal. Now by Sunday, that low that over the last couple of days will end up in the Pacific Northwest, splits off, goes down into Arizona, Mexico here, and then we'll take a track this way. We're going to have a Carolina system here. The mountains of North Carolina could be getting some snow this weekend with that system. So that's going to be a tricky little system along the East Coast. So there's a lot of moving parts going on here. But the next weather maker here is in the Aleutians, a pocket of very cold, moist, unstable air. Notice the packing of the black lines here. I mean, there's a strong jet stream. So what'll happen is that strong jet stream is going to want to dig towards the Four Corners area by the middle of next week. So this is the frontal system and the system that'll be coming through Sunday. It won't be much of a weather maker, mainly making Sunday into Monday a little bit colder. Then you can see that low from the Aleutians taking a dive with very strong jet stream winds behind it that will want to dig the low and the cold air right towards the Great Basin, while this guy gets kicked out towards the Midwest. So the Midwest towards early to the middle parts of next week will have another rain snow event. There's a lot of very cold air parked up here waiting to come in behind this low. So this is where we're setting the stage for a colder, more wintry trend next week across the entire West and central areas of the U.S. So stock growers and travelers, you're going to want to keep track of this system for the middle of next week. It's way too early to talk about whether or not it's going to be a big snowmaker or not. It'll certainly produce some snow, and it will certainly make it very cold in many areas of the central and west mid to late next week. And this is what it looks like by Wednesday. And we're going to see potentially a low going right towards that Four Corners area before heading out into the plains. And so from history, from basically historical trends and climatology, and for just experience, when you put a low in the Four Corners area, you have the door open to upslope, you open the door to Canada, and you get yourself in a situation to where there's going to be some wintry weather. So we'll keep an eye on that for the middle of next week, over the next several days. But, it's a week away, so we'll see what happens. But if it all comes together, certainly there's a lot of cold air coming in behind it. So you can see there by Wednesday, it's pretty chilly out there, and that cold air will spread south and east. Now, in the longer term, we have talked about this a few times during the podcast this winter, is we have what are called stratospheric warming events. We've had a couple of these so far this winter, and these have been associated with Arctic outbreaks across North America, and especially here out west. And, we're at the tail end of the winter season. Yes, we're getting close to the end of the winter season. And when it goes later, as we get into March and April, these stratospheric warming events tend not to happen. But it does look like here we are in the next 10 to 14 days, the stratosphere is going to go into a warmer phase. When the stratosphere gets warmer, it expands because warmer air takes up more space. And what happens is that over the polar regions, when the stratosphere warms up and expands, it pushes down towards the ground and pushes the very cold air that is normally and just naturally in these regions here and in these regions here. Well, the cold air can't go into the ground. It has to get pushed, and it gets pushed to the lower latitudes. So this is where the stratosphere is today in terms of temperature anomalies way up high in the atmosphere. So here is, you can see that it's warm, basically with the orange colors, and it's colder with the blue colors there. Look what happens 10 days from now. You see that big trend towards a big contrast, a big temperature change. So if this happens, what this means is in the longer term, towards the second half of February into the beginnings of March, odds are there's going to be plenty of cold air available to move into Canada and the U.S. So any thought of a February thaw or maybe a mild start to March, that's not on the table. All the long-term trends continue to show a signature of being colder than normal. And the new European model, which came out yesterday, that goes out to 45 days, is showing this temperature anomaly. If you take all the temperatures all the way through the 24th of March, and you add them up, the tendency is going to be, look at all the blue there in the west, for colder than average temperatures for the next, 45 days on the whole. Now, this takes us through the third week of March. You hope by then that these Arctic outbreaks begin to wane, and they should, but at least here for the next 4 weeks. More often than not, we've got a lot of winter left to go through. Have yourself a good Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.